Chen's government-issue shuttle rocked as she pushed it beyond recommended atmospheric exit velocities. The assassination attempt replayed in her mind. The distinctive click of her apartment's smart lock disengaging without her fingerprint, the shadowy figures visible only as heat signatures through her military-grade augmented vision implant, the whispered government security codes that weren't supposed to exist. Blackbird is in flight. Confirm termination protocol. She shuddered. Termination protocol. 6 years serving the United Earth government, and this was her reward for discovering the truth. The shuttle's communication system chirped. Chen hesitated, then activated the encrypted channel she'd been given by her former supervisor before his mysterious retirement 3 months ago. Chen. Thank God. Director Hammond's voice was tense, stripped of its usual bureaucratic polish. Are you secure? Depends on your definition, she replied, checking the ship's systems for tracking signals. Someone tried to kill me using UEG Black Ops protocols. Listen carefully. I don't have much time. What you found on Proxima Centauri wasn't the first disappearance. It's been happening for decades. The mining colonies are just the most recent. Chen's blood ran cold. You knew about this. Not everything, but enough to start asking questions, which is why I was forced out. There's a data packet embedded in this transmission. Coordinates to a contact on Europa who can help you, a former military intelligence officer named Rivera. He has proof of what we're dealing with. The shuttle's sensors blared a proximity warning. A military cruiser had just appeared on her radar, moving to intercept. Hammond, I've got company. They're tracking this communication. Chen, understand something. This goes all the way to the top. The Undersecretary for Colonial Affairs has personally ordered your elimination. You know too much. The military cruiser fired a warning shot across her bow. Her shuttle systems immediately began shutting down. Standard compliance protocol. Override code Theta 973, Chen shouted at the console. Hammond had given her the backdoor months ago, for emergencies. The systems rebooted, overriding the external shutdown command. I can buy you some time, Hammond said. But after that, you're on your own. The connection terminated. Seconds later, the military cruiser's weapon systems appeared to malfunction, firing wildly into empty space. Chen punched in the coordinates Hammond had sent. Europa. Jupiter's moon. She'd need to use the asteroid belt to mask her signature. As she plotted her course, Chen examined the partial video she'd salvaged from Proxima Centauri's security system. She froze on the frame showing the human in the expensive suit. Zooming in, she enhanced the image. A cold shock of recognition hit her. Undersecretary Philip Vega, the same man who had dismissed her evidence and now wanted her dead. In the video, he was calmly watching as colonists were herded into alien vessels, their faces blank with terror or perhaps some form of control. What have you done, Vega? She whispered. Her shuttle's small AI assistant chirped. Analysis complete on the non-human entities in the video. On the screen appeared a detailed rendering of the insectoid creatures. Nearly 3 meters tall, with compound eyes and mandibles that could easily tear through human flesh. But most disturbing were the technological implants fused to their chitinous exoskeletons, not added components but seemingly grown as part of their bodies. Cross-reference with all known xenobiological databases, Chen commanded. No matches found in public or government databases, the AI responded. However, there is a reference in a classified military file. Access denied. Chen smiled grimly. Access code Theta 973. The file opened, revealing a single designation, Nexus Harvester Cast. Beneath it, a warning. All personnel encountering these entities are to report directly to Colonial Affairs. Do not engage. Do not document. Maximum deniability protocols in effect. The truth was becoming clearer, and far more terrifying than she'd imagined. Europa's subsurface ocean facilities weren't on any official maps. Chen had to navigate the final approach manually, using Hammond's coordinates to locate a maintenance airlock disguised as an ice sampling station. The airlock cycled open before she could transmit any access codes. Inside, now, a woman's voice, terse and commanding, echoed through Chen's comms. "You've got a UEG tracker on your shuttle." Chen grabbed her pack and rushed through the airlock. As it sealed behind her, she felt the vibration of her shuttle being jettisoned back into space. "Your ride's on a one-way trip to Ganymede," said the woman, a wiry soldier with a lieutenant's insignia scratched off her armor. "Should keep them busy for a while." "I need to see Rivera," Chen said. The woman's eyes narrowed. "And you think I'll just take you to him because you asked nicely? Hammond vouched for you. But Hammond's been wrong before." "I saw the Proxima Centauri abductions," Chen said. "I have the video." Something flickered across the woman's face. Recognition. Perhaps fear. "Follow me." They descended through a network of tunnels that didn't match any Europa facility schematics Chen had studied. Eventually, they reached a chamber carved directly into the ice, reinforced with a material Chen didn't recognize. It seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Inside, a dozen people worked at makeshift terminals. Maps of the solar system and beyond covered the walls, with red markers indicating colonial outposts. Too many markers were crossed out. A tall man with close-cropped gray hair and cybernetic eyes approached. "Investigator Chen, Hammond spoke highly of you." "Rivera?" Chen asked. He nodded. "Welcome to the Resistance, or what's left of it." Before Chen could respond, a young girl, perhaps 13, stepped from behind Rivera. Her movements were unnaturally precise, her eyes scanning Chen with machine-like efficiency. "She doesn't believe you yet," the girl said, her voice oddly flat. "Show her." Rivera gestured toward a door at the far end of the chamber. Some things have to be seen to be believed. The room beyond contained 30 people in various states of recovery. Some bore surgical scars along their spines and at the base of their skulls. Others stared vacantly at walls, occasionally jerking as if responding to unseen stimuli. "Survivors," Rivera explained. "We've managed to rescue 212 over the past 5 years. These are the most recent." A man with half his face covered in regeneration bandages approached Chen. "Your government," he said, voice raspy, "like the ones who sold us." "Decker, she's not with them anymore," Rivera said. "Tell that to my daughter," Decker snarled. "Tell that to all the children they selected first." Chen's stomach tightened. "Selected? The Nexus take everyone eventually," Rivera explained. "But they prioritize children and young adults. More adaptable brains, better neuroplasticity for their control implants." The girl who had spoken earlier approached a woman sitting motionless on a cot. She placed her hand on the woman's forehead. "Mother," she said, without emotion. "This one will help us." The woman didn't respond. "Zora was born in captivity," Rivera explained. "Her mother was taken while pregnant. The Nexus experimented on her. She escaped during a transport malfunction 6 months ago." Chen knelt before the girl. "You know how they think." "I know how they control," Zora corrected. "They need human slaves because we can do what their technology cannot. We can adapt. We can imagine." From elsewhere in the complex, an alarm blared. The lieutenant who had met Chen at the airlock burst into the room. "They found us," she said. "Military strike team just breached the upper levels." Rivera cursed. "They must have traced your communication with Hammond." "No," Zora said, her voice suddenly sharp. "They've always known. They just didn't care until she brought proof." Rivera grabbed Chen's arm. "The tunnels. Now, what about them?" Chen pointed to the survivors. "Evacuation protocol," Rivera said grimly. "We've done this before." As they rushed the survivors toward escape pods disguised as maintenance vehicles, the first explosions rocked the complex. Government forces weren't trying to capture them. They were trying to bury the evidence. Chen watched as Rivera directed the evacuation with practiced efficiency. He'd done this before, running from the same government he once served. "Why are you helping these people?" Chen asked as they loaded the last survivors. Rivera's cybernetic eyes wavered as they focused on her. Because 20 years ago, I was the one who signed the treaty with the Nexus. This is my penance. The Nexus processing station loomed before them, disguised as an asteroid, but betrayed by the perfect symmetry of its surface features. Chen studied it through the viewport of their stolen military scout ship, its transponder codes altered to identify as a routine patrol. "We're being scanned," Rivera whispered, though there was no need for silence in space. Old habits. Zara placed her hand on the ship's console, eyes unfocused. "Speak the words I tell you," she instructed Chen. Then, in a language that sounded like crystalline fractures and subharmonic vibrations, she began reciting the complex sequence. Chen repeated the alien syllables exactly, feeling them scrape against her throat. The transmission went out. The scanning beam winked out. "Access granted." "How did you know that would work?" Chen asked the girl. "The overseer called Vgitani uses the same authentication sequence at each rotation. They never change protocols unless forced to." Rivera's expression darkened. "Vgitani, you know this overseer." Zara's hand drifted to a scar on her neck. "He created me." Before Chen could ask what that meant, their ship received automated docking instructions. They were in. The team, Chen, Rivera, Zara, and 3 former military specialists, donned the stealth suits Rivera had acquired from a black site weapons cache. The suits bent light around them, not perfect invisibility, but enough to confuse most automated systems. "Remember," Rivera cautioned as they prepared to board, "this is reconnaissance only. We get the slave network data and leave. No engagement." They moved through the processing station's loading bays where captured human cargo ships were being systematically dismantled. Chen recorded everything with her implant's visual feed, fighting to maintain professional detachment as she documented evidence. The deeper sections revealed the true horror. Vast chambers filled with stasis pods, each containing the human suspended in translucent fluid. Some appeared to have been there for years, their muscles atrophied, hair grown long. "Breeding stock," Zara said flatly. "They keep the genetically desirable ones to produce offspring better suited for specialized tasks." Chen swallowed bile. "They're breeding humans." "Like you breed dogs for specific purposes," Zara replied. "I was bred for cognitive interface capabilities." Batch 17. Rivera placed a hand on the girl's shoulder, but she shrugged it off. They reached a central processing hub where newly captured humans were being examined. Medical equipment hummed around conscious, terrified colonists strapped to examination tables. Insectoid Nexus workers moved with mechanical precision, implanting neural control devices at the base of each human skull while they screamed. "The main data node should be through there." Rivera pointed to a sealed doorway, guarded by 2 larger Nexus drones. Suddenly, Zara froze, her eyes widening. "Vgitani," she whispered. Before anyone could stop her, she had deactivated her stealth suit and was moving toward an imposing figure entering the processing center. Nearly 3 meters tall, with an exoskeleton of iridescent black chitin and multiple limbs ending in precision tools, the alien overseer irradiated authority. "Zara, no," Rivera hissed, but it was too late. The girl had produced a blade, hidden where Chen couldn't imagine, and launched herself at the overseer. Her attack was precise, aimed at a vulnerable junction between carapace plates, but Vgitani moved with unexpected speed, catching her mid-leap. Alarms blared. The stealth team's position was compromised. "New plan," Chen shouted, drawing her weapon. "Get to the data node. I'll create a diversion." As Rivera and the others fought their way toward the main data repository, Chen released the restraints on a row of examination tables. The colonists, seeing an opportunity, immediately attacked their captors despite their weakened state. In the chaos, Chen spotted another chamber she hadn't noticed before. Inside, humans sat in circular arrangements, connected to a central crystalline structure. Their faces registered pure agony as energy pulsed from them into the crystal. "Emotion harvesters," explained a voice behind her. Chen turned to find a wounded colonist leaning against the wall. "They feed on our fear, our anger, our love. It powers their psychic tech. Those poor bastards have been plugged in for months." A security door slammed down, cutting off her route to Rivera. Through reinforced glass, she saw him accessing the data node, downloading frantically as security forces closed in. He met her eyes across the distance and held up the data drive. "Success." Then he mouthed 2 words. "Save Zora." Chen turned to see the girl still struggling in Vitani's grasp. Making her choice, Chen charged toward them, weapon firing. Chen's hands trembled as she prepared the broadcast. The military relay station's crew lay unconscious. Not dead, she'd insisted on non-lethal measures, while Zara worked methodically to bypass the security protocols. "They're tracking our position," Zara said, her voice still devoid of emotion, despite everything they'd witnessed. "We have 8 minutes before military response." The data Rivera had sacrificed himself to obtain was more damning than Chen had imagined. Not just evidence of the abductions, but detailed records of the treaty itself, signed by 3 consecutive UEG Secretaries General. The document included precise quotas of humans to be supplied annually, categorized by age, genetic markers, and psychological profiles. Most horrifying were the selection protocols. Government algorithms quietly flagged suitable candidates. Prisoners, yes, but also residents of outlying colonies, political dissidents, and those whose psychological profiles marked them as socially expendable. "I'm routing us through 17 different nodes," Zora explained, fingers dancing across the interface. "It won't stop them from finding us, but it will prevent them from shutting down the broadcast." "What about the security measures on the classified files?" Chen asked. Zara's expression remained unchanged. "Irrelevant. I've neutralized them." The girl had become increasingly efficient since their escape from the processing station. Whatever mental conditioning the Nexus had subjected her to seemed to be breaking down, revealing something both more and less than human beneath. "Ready," Zara announced. Chen took a deep breath and activated the broadcast. Her face appeared on communication channels across Earth and all colonial outposts simultaneously, overriding emergency systems designed for imminent disaster warnings. "My name is Elisa Chen, former UEG colonial investigator," she began. "What I'm about to show you has been hidden from humanity for 50 years. The broadcast shifted to the footage from the processing station, the pods, the surgical implantation procedures, the emotion harvesters. Chen narrated dispassionately, presenting evidence rather than editorializing. The facts were damning enough. Then came the treaty documents, with highlighted passages detailing the quotas and selection criteria. When she displayed the signatures of government officials, alongside footage of Undersecretary Vega personally selecting from human captives, the first reports of public disturbances began flowing in through Zara's monitoring systems. "Rio de Janeiro is mobilizing," Zara reported. "New Beijing, Luna Colony, Mars Arcology, civilian uprisings at government centers." Chen continued, revealing the final piece, the list of selection criteria that had sentenced thousands to slavery. "Check your citizen profile," she instructed viewers. "Search for classification markers J37 through K92. These designate you as potential candidates for harvest." Communications began flooding in as people discovered their own names or those of missing loved ones on the lists. The evidence was irrefutable, personalized to each viewer in the most horrifying way possible. Military vessels were the first to break ranks. The UEG Dauntless, an orbital defense platform, publicly declared support for what they were already calling the Resistance. 3 colonial defense fleets followed within minutes. "Incoming transmission," Zara announced. "Military encryption, highest level." The face that appeared belonged to Admiral Helena Takeda, commander of the UEG Navy's Solar Division. Her expression was grim. "Chen, this is Admiral Takeda. We've been suspicious of colonial affairs for years, but never had proof. Half my fleet is with you. The other half is responding to executive orders to put down insurrection. We're heading for Earth orbit now. Civil war has begun. A proximity alarm blared. Government strike ships had located the relay station. You've done enough, Takeda continued. I'm sending coordinates for extraction. The military is fracturing, but you've given us the truth. That's all we needed. As Chen prepared to evacuate, a final transmission came through. This one directly from UAG headquarters. Secretary General Williams himself, his usual composed demeanor replaced by cold fury. You've doomed us all, Chen, he said. The treaty was the only thing keeping Earth safe. The Nexus fleet will come now, and you've disarmed us from within. Chen met his gaze through the screen. No, Mr. Secretary, I've armed humanity with the truth. You'll find that makes us far more dangerous than you can imagine. Admiral Takeda's war room aboard the UEG Indomitable hummed with activity. 30 days since Chen's broadcast, and humanity had transformed itself. Military officers worked alongside civilian scientists. Former government officials now turned whistleblowers, and most surprisingly, a growing number of freed slaves from various species. The Nexus fleet has passed Neptune's orbit, reported a sensor technician. 47 capital ships, over 200 support vessels. Chen studied the holographic display, noting the Nexus formation. They're moving exactly as predicted, she observed. Of course they are, came a voice through the ship's communication system. Rivera's voice, though altered, mechanical. The Nexus haven't changed their battle algorithms in 3,000 years. Why would they? No one's ever beaten them. Rivera's face appeared on a nearby screen, though face was perhaps no longer the right word. What remained of the man was integrated with Nexus technology, his eyes replaced with sensory arrays, neural interfaces visible beneath translucent skin. The Nexus had transformed him after his capture, converting him into a hybrid interface for their systems. What they hadn't expected was his ability to maintain his human consciousness and secretly establish communication with the Resistance. Their command vessel carries the regional overseer, Rivera continued. They've never deployed one outside their core systems before. They're scared. Good, Takeda said grimly. They should be. In the month since the revelations, humanity had undergone what historians were already calling the awakening. With the truth exposed, a profound psychological shift had swept through human society. Where there had been terror and disbelief came rage, then determination, and finally, innovation. The Nexus technology captured from government black sites had been reverse-engineered with astonishing speed. Scientists working alongside freed slaves with knowledge of Nexus systems had made breakthroughs that would have taken decades under normal circumstances. The fleet is mobilizing, Takeda announced. Operation Thunderbolt commences in 6 hours. As the briefing continued, Chen slipped away to the ship's medical bay where Zara was undergoing another examination. The girl's condition had continued to evolve. Her Nexus implants integrating more thoroughly with her human physiology rather than being rejected. Her synaptic pathways are reconfiguring themselves, explained Dr. Okafor, showing Chen the neural scans. It's as though her brain is creating new structures that neither humans nor Nexus possess naturally. Zora opened her eyes. They're coming to harvest Earth entirely, she said without preamble. The Overseer believes humans are becoming too dangerous to manage through controlled harvesting. How do you know this? Chen asked, though she learned not to doubt the girl's insights. Rivera told me. We share the network now. Zora's expression remained neutral, but Chen had learned to read the subtle shifts in her voice. There was concern there, perhaps even fear. He's discovered something else, something they've hidden from their own kind. Chen waited as Zora seemed to listen to some inaudible communication. The Nexus aren't conquering us, Zora finally said. They're running from something. Something they call the Void. They've been harvesting creativity and emotion from sentient species because they lost their own. Without it, they cannot innovate, cannot adapt. And adaptation is what they need to survive what's coming. A lieutenant burst into the medical bay before Chen could process this revelation. "Ma'am, we've detected a transmission from the Nexus fleet. It's aimed at all the implants. Every slave in human space simultaneously." Chen rushed back to the command center. On the main display, millions of tiny lights were blinking into activity across Earth and the colonies, each representing an implanted human suddenly activated by the Nexus signal. "They're turning our own people against us," Takeda realized. Rivera's distorted face appeared on the screen again. "Not just humans. Every enslaved species with implants is being activated. The Nexus are weaponizing the slaves." Chen turned to Takeda. "We need to accelerate the timetable. Launch Thunderbolt now." As alarms sounded throughout the fleet, Chen received one more transmission from Rivera. This one private. "I've located your sister, Elisa. She's on the command ship. She's been converted like me, but more extensively. She's become what the Nexus call a cognition engine. If we destroy that ship..." Chen closed her eyes briefly. "Understand. We proceed as planned." She'd already lost so much. The fate of humanity would not be added to that list. Operation Thunderbolt unfolded across the solar system with synchronized precision. The human fleet didn't meet the Nexus Armada head-on as expected. Instead, they were nowhere to be found. The Nexus formation advanced toward Earth unopposed, their sensors detecting only civilian traffic hastily evacuating the planet. Aboard the Nexus command ship, Grand Overseer Kitani communicated with his subordinates through neural channels. Asterisk, where is their defense fleet? Have they surrendered? Asterisk. The response came from a hollowed-out human form suspended in a crystalline chamber. Chen's sister, Maya, her consciousness subsumed into the ship's systems. "They have not surrendered," she intoned. Her voice harmonized with mechanical undertones. "They are elsewhere. I cannot locate them." Kitani's compound eyes shifted in agitation. This was unprecedented. The human resistance should have positioned their vessels in Earth's orbit, as all species did when defending their homeworlds. The protocols were clear, the responses predictable. Asterisk, activate all controlled assets on the planet's surface, asterisk, he commanded. Throughout Earth, millions of humans with dormant implants suddenly stopped whatever they were doing. Their eyes glazed over as the neural control signals overrode their consciousness. As one, they began attacking government buildings, military installations, and resistance strongholds. But something was wrong. "The controlled assets are being neutralized," Maya reported. "Massive signal interference detected." On Earth, resistance teams deployed portable jammers, technology developed from Rivera's intelligence. The activated slaves stopped mid-attack, their implants temporarily disabled. Medical teams moved in with field surgery units, extracting the control devices on the spot. The Nexus fleet continued its advance, still detecting no opposition. They passed the moon, their massive ships casting shadows across the lunar colonies. Then Chen gave the order. "Execute Thunderbolt Phase 1. Hundreds of stealth mines, deployed days earlier along the Nexus approach vector, detonated simultaneously. Not with conventional explosions, but with electromagnetic pulses specifically calibrated to the frequency of Nexus shield technology." The Nexus vessels lurched as their shields fluctuated. Before they could recalibrate, the human fleet appeared, not from Earth's orbit where they'd been expected, but from behind Mars, using the planet to mask their approach. "All vessels, weapons free," Admiral Takeda commanded. "Target their propulsion and communication arrays only." The human vessels unleashed salvos of missiles designed by Zara, their payloads containing modified versions of the Nexus' own control signals. Where they struck, Nexus systems turned against themselves, vessel defenses attacking their own hull integrity. On the UEG Indomitable's bridge, Chen watched the tactical display as the first wave of Nexus support vessels were disabled. "We're receiving surrender signals from 3 Nexus transports," a communications officer reported, disbelief in her voice. "Confirm contents," Chen ordered. The officer's eyes widened. "Life signs. Thousands of them. Multiple species. They're slave transports. Boarding teams, prepare for immediate deployment," Tekiva commanded. "Medical units on standby." The first transport's airlock cycled open to reveal hundreds of stasis pods. Human boarding teams moved cautiously through the vessel, encountering minimal resistance from the few Nexus crew members who seemed utterly unprepared for direct combat. "Chen, you need to see this," came the voice of Dr. Okafor over the comm. "These aren't just humans. There are at least 7 distinct species aboard, all implanted with control devices." The liberation teams began disconnecting stasis pods, medical personnel assessing each occupant. Most were unconscious. Some had been in stasis for years. A Nexus crew member, cornered by human soldiers, raised its upper limbs in what appeared to be a gesture of submission. In halting, synthesized speech, it addressed them. "We, maintenance caste, not warriors. No harm." Chen, receiving the feed from the boarding team's cameras, felt a jolt of realization. They don't know how to fight. Their entire empire is built on controlled proxies and intimidation. As the battle continued, the human fleet captured more transports while disabling the Nexus warships. With each liberated vessel, they acquired more intact Nexus technology and freed more captives. Not just humans, but beings from across the galaxy. On the command ship, Victani watched in mounting disbelief as his fleet was systematically incapacitated. This wasn't supposed to be possible. No species had ever mounted an effective resistance, let alone counterattacked. "Activate the cognition engine," he commanded. "Find their weakness, *." In her crystalline prison, Maya Chen's eyes opened wide as her altered consciousness was forced to analyze human battle tactics. Through the remnants of her human identity, a single thought formed: a memory of her sister. And for the first time since her conversion, she resisted. The captured Nexus command ship, renamed Prometheus by the human forces, served as the meeting ground for what historians would later call the First Galactic Coalition. Representatives from 7 liberated species gathered in the vast chamber once used by Nexus overseers to plan their harvesting operations. Chen observed the delegates with cautious optimism. The silver-skinned Marins with their telepathic abilities, the insectoid Vesperi, former enforcers for the Nexus now free of their control implants, the crystalline Lithosians who communicated through light patterns, and 4 other species, each bringing unique capabilities and perspectives. The Nexus are regrouping at their secondary command post in the Ta-CD system, Zara announced, interfacing directly with the ship's systems. Her abilities had continued to evolve, allowing her to interpret and manipulate Nexus technology with intuitive ease. "They're preparing a counterattack," added a Vesperi representative, its mandibles clicking nervously. "The Grand Concordance has been summoned." The chamber fell silent. Even those with limited knowledge of Nexus hierarchy understood the significance. "What's the Grand Concordance?" Chen asked. "The ruling council," explained Karina, a Marian diplomat. "They rarely intervene directly in regional matters. If they've been summoned, the Nexus consider this an existential threat." "Good," Tekiva said firmly. "They should." A holographic display activated in the center of the chamber, showing Rivera's partly mechanized form. "I've intercepted their communications. They're deploying a psychic amplification weapon, designed to override all control implants simultaneously and turn the bearers into suicide weapons." "How many implanted individuals are we talking about?" Chen asked. "In this sector alone, approximately 87 million across all species," Rivera replied, "including 30 million humans." The coalition representatives exchanged alarmed glances. "We've only managed to remove implants from a few thousand individuals," Dr. Okafor pointed out. "We don't have the resources or time to help them all." "Then we need to neutralize the signal at its source," Chen concluded. "Where is the amplification station?" Rivera's image shifted, displaying a massive orbital installation around a barren planet. "Designate HD 200, and 19,134 bits. Heavily defended. But that's not our biggest problem. The display zoomed in on thousands of small dots surrounding the station. Slave ships, Rivera explained, positioned as living shields. Any attack on the station risks killing millions of captives. Chen felt the weight of impossible choices pressing down on her. The station had to be neutralized before the Nexus activated their weapon, but not at the cost of millions of innocent lives. Unexpectedly, it was Zora who offered a solution. "We don't need to destroy the station," she said, her voice steadier, more human than it had been in weeks. "We need to repurpose it." All eyes turned to the girl. "The amplification technology works on specific neural pathways," she continued. "I can alter the signal parameters to target Nexus control systems instead. Their ships, their facilities, all run on the same core architecture." "You'd need direct access to the central control node," Rivera objected. "Yes," Zora acknowledged. "Someone would need to reach the station core." Silence fell over the chamber again as the implication sank in. It would be a suicide mission. "There's something else," Rivera added reluctantly. "I've confirmed Chen's sister is being transferred to the amplification station. She's become too valuable as a cognition engine to risk on a battlefield." Chen's heart raced. A chance to save Maya, but at what cost? Before she could respond, a Lithosian representative stepped forward, its crystalline body refracting light in complex patterns. "We offer our assistance," it communicated. "Our physical form can withstand Nexus security measures that would destroy organic tissue." The Marian diplomat nodded in agreement, "And our telepaths can shield a small insertion team from detection." One by one, the coalition members offered their unique capabilities. The Vesperi would provide detailed knowledge of Nexus installation layouts. The aquatic Nyx Airy could navigate the station's cooling systems undetected. "We have been slaves for generations," the Vesperi representative declared. "We will not allow them to enslave anyone else." Chen watched in amazement as ancient enemies found common purpose. Species that had been pitted against each other by the Nexus were now planning a joint operation with seamless cooperation. "We launch in 6 hours," Takeda decided. "All coalition forces will coordinate to create a diversion while the infiltration team boards the station." As the meeting adjourned, Chen approached Zora privately. "You don't have to do this," she said quietly. Zora looked up at her with eyes that seemed more human than they had since their first meeting. "I was created to be their tool," she replied. "It seems fitting that I should be the instrument of their undoing." The Nexus amplification station loomed before them, a massive structure of crystalline spires and pulsing energy conduits orbiting the barren planet. Chen's infiltration team, herself, Zara, a Lithosian engineer, and 2 Marian telepaths, approached in a captured Nexus shuttle, their minds shielded from detection by the Marian psychic abilities. Around them, the Coalition fleet engaged the Nexus defenders in a carefully orchestrated battle, not seeking to destroy but to distract. Each Coalition species employed tactics the Nexus had never encountered, creating a chaotic battlefield that their predictive algorithms couldn't process. "Approaching Docking Bay 7, Chen announced. "Transmitting stolen access codes." The shuttle's communication array broadcast the clearance sequence Rivera had extracted from the Nexus network. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the bay doors slowly parted. "They've accepted our credentials," Zora confirmed. "But we have 14 minutes before automatic verification protocols flag the discrepancy." Inside the station, the team moved swiftly through maintenance corridors identified by their Vesperi allies. The Lithosian engineer interfaced with control panels along the way, temporarily disabling security systems. "The central core is 3 levels down," Zara said, her eyes unfocused as she consulted the station schematics Rivera had provided. "Maya is being held 2 sections over." Chen hesitated. Their mission was to reach the control core and redirect the amplification signal. Every second delayed put millions at risk. "Go," said one of the Marians, sensing her conflict. "We will continue to the core. Save your sister." Chen nodded gratefully and split from the group, making her way through the labyrinthine corridors. She encountered 2 Nexus maintenance drones, but dispatched them silently before they could sound alarms. She found Maya in a crystalline chamber similar to the one on the command ship. Her sister floated in suspension, her body altered almost beyond recognition. Neural interfaces embedded throughout her skin, her eyes replaced with sensory arrays that pulsed with data. "Maya," Chen whispered, approaching cautiously. Her sister's head turned, the movement unnaturally smooth. "Elisa Chen, you should not be here." The voice was Maya's, but overlaid with harmonic tones that created an unsettling chorus effect. "I've come to take you home." "I have no home. I am Cognition Engine 7 Alpha. I process tactical data for the Grand Concordance." Chen placed her hand on a crystalline barrier separating them. "You're my sister. We grew up in New Singapore. You joined colonial affairs to explore new worlds. You disappeared 5 years ago during an expedition to Ta City." Something flickered across Maya's altered features, recognition, perhaps, or confusion. "The Nexus didn't just take your body," Chen continued. "They took your choice. That's what this is all about, Maya. The right to choose our own fate." Maya's mechanical eyes focused on Chen with new intensity. "Choice, an inefficient parameter, creates unpredictability." "Exactly," Chen said. "That's what makes us human. That's what they fear." Before Maya could respond, an alarm blared throughout the station. Through her comlink, Chen heard Zora's voice, tense but controlled. "We've reached the core, but we've been detected. Station defenses are activating. We don't have much time." Chen turned back to her sister. "Maya, I need your help. Millions will die if we don't stop the amplification signal." Maya remained motionless for several seconds. Then, slowly, her hand raised and touched the barrier from the other side, mirroring Chen's. "I remember. The cherry trees in Botanical Garden 4. You climbed the tallest one. Father was angry." Chen smiled through tears. "He grounded you too, even though it was my idea. Shared punishment. Shared humanity." Maya's voice became more singular, the harmonic overlay fading. "I can help you. The core system requires a cognition engine to modify signal parameters." In the control core, Zara and the others fought a losing battle against automated defenses. The Lithosian engineer had been shattered by a security pulse, its crystalline form scattered across the floor. One of the Marians maintained a psychic shield, while the other worked frantically to interface with the core systems. "We need an authorized command presence to access the signal matrix," the Marian reported desperately. The door slid open. Chen entered, supporting Maya's altered form. "We have one," Chen said. Maya moved to the central column, her neural interfaces connecting to the station's systems. "I will redirect the signal. But there is a complication. The Grand Concordance has initiated final authorization sequence. They're monitoring directly." "Can you block them?" Chen asked. "No, but I can show them something they've never seen." Maya's altered eyes fixed on Chen. Truth. As Maya interfaced with the core, something unprecedented occurred. Instead of simply redirecting the amplification signal, she opened a direct channel to the Grand Concordance itself, the ruling council of the entire Nexus civilization. And through that channel, she transmitted not just data, but human consciousness, memories, emotions, hopes, the entire spectrum of experiences that defined humanity. The effect was instantaneous. Throughout Nexus space, their systems faltered as the ruling intelligences encountered something they had purged from themselves millennia ago: empathy, compassion, the understanding of what it meant to be enslaved. "Signal redirected," Zara reported as the station's energy shifted. "All Nexus control systems are shutting down." Across the galaxy, billions of control implants deactivated simultaneously. The freed slaves, human and alien alike, awakened to self-determination for the first time in generations. On thousands of worlds, Nexus overseers found themselves suddenly alone. Their controlled armies vanished, their systems failing. In the heart of the control core, Maya turned to her sister one last time. "Freedom," she said, her voice now fully her own despite her altered form. They never understood what it meant. Now they will learn, or they will perish.